The intricate tapestry of China's political landscape appears to be undergoing subtle yet significant shifts, with recent reports suggesting a potential recalibration of power dynamics at the very top. While Beijing continues to project an image of stability and engage actively on the global stage, a closer look at various analyses points to an evolving narrative surrounding President Xi Jinping's seemingly unshakable authority, prompting observers to question the true extent of his grip on the nation's leadership. Among the most striking recent developments are analyses indicating a possible erosion of President Xi Jinping's central position within official state media. A report from the Jamestown Foundation published on June 21, 2025 highlights this potential shift, suggesting that the carefully curated image of Xi as the singular indispensable leader might be facing internal challenges. This sentiment is echoed and indeed amplified by a Vision Times piece from the same day, which boldly described the situation as "inside the silent coup, how Xi Jinping lost his grip on China's Communist Party." While the specifics of such a silent coup remain opaque, typical of Beijing's tightly controlled information environment, these reports collectively suggest a departure from the absolute consolidation of power witnessed in recent years. The implications of such a development are profound, potentially signaling a re-emergence of collective leadership principles or a challenge from rival factions within the party, driven perhaps by economic headwinds, social pressures, or disagreements over strategic direction. A weakening of Xi's media dominance, if accurate, could reflect a deliberate effort to diversify the narrative or a loss of direct control over propaganda apparatuses, both of which would be unprecedented in his tenure. In parallel with these intriguing internal political whispers, the Chinese government appears to be reinforcing its control over domestic societal elements, particularly religious groups. The South China Morning Post reported on June 21, 2025 that Chinese religious organizations have been warned of a hidden danger stemming from foreign infiltration. This directive underscores Beijing's long-standing concern over external influences, but its timing amidst reports of internal power shifts is notable. It could be interpreted as a preemptive measure to quash any potential avenues for dissent or alternative ideologies, or a response to perceived vulnerabilities arising from internal political flux. Such warnings often precede increased surveillance and tighter restrictions on religious practices, aiming to ensure absolute loyalty to the party and prevent any perceived challenge to its authority, especially from sources not directly under its control. The narrative of foreign infiltration serves as a convenient justification for tightening control, rallying nationalistic sentiment, and diverting attention from internal pressures. Despite these significant internal rumblings, China's diplomatic engagements continue apace, projecting an image of business as usual on the international front. On June 21, 2025, New Zealand Prime Minister Christopher Luxon met with President Xi Jinping, as reported by MSN. This high-level diplomatic meeting demonstrates that regardless of any internal political maneuvers, Beijing remains committed to maintaining and expanding its international relationships. Such engagements serve multiple purposes. They project stability to the global community, reassure trading partners, and advance China's geopolitical objectives. The meeting with PM Luxon, occurring on the same day as reports of Xi's eroding power, could be seen as a strategic move to demonstrate the continuity of China's foreign policy and the stability of its leadership, even if that leadership is undergoing internal adjustments. It highlights the dual nature of China's global presence, outwardly confident and engaged while internally navigating complex and often opaque power dynamics. The confluence of these reports paints a fascinating, albeit incomplete, picture of China at a critical juncture. The alleged erosion of Xi Jinping's media centrality and the claims of a silent coup suggest a potential inflection point in the party's internal power structure, moving away from the highly personalized leadership that has defined the past decade. Simultaneously, the tightening grip on religious groups indicates a continued emphasis on internal security and ideological conformity. Yet the ongoing high-level international diplomacy underscores China's unwavering commitment to its foreign policy objectives and its projection of a stable, unified front to the world. As the summer of 2025 unfolds, observers will be keenly watching for further indicators of these evolving dynamics. seeking to understand how these internal shifts might ultimately reshape China's domestic policies and its role on the global stage. The true extent of any silent coup and its long-term implications for China's trajectory remain to be seen, but the signs point to a period of significant if subtle transformation. Recent reports emerging from various international news outlets paint a complex and potentially transformative picture of China's political landscape, suggesting an unprecedented period of internal shifts and strategic realignments. On June 21, 2025, a confluence of analyses hinted at significant developments, from an alleged erosion of central authority to intensified domestic control and a reinforcement of key international alliances. Foremost among these revelations are independent assessments from think tanks and news organizations. The Jamestown Foundation, a prominent research institution, published an article on June 21, 2025. Detailing how Xi Jinping's central position in official Chinese media has reportedly begun to erode. This assessment was echoed by Vision Times, which on the same day published an in-depth piece titled "Inside the Silent Coup: How Xi Jinping Lost His Grip on China's Communist Party." While the specific mechanisms and full extent of this alleged power shift remain subjects of ongoing analysis, these reports collectively suggest a potential weakening of the previously ironclad grip of the paramount leader, a development that, if substantiated, would mark a profound turning point in contemporary Chinese politics. Such a shift could stem from a variety of factors, including internal dissatisfaction with past policies, economic pressures, or the natural ebb and flow of power dynamics within the party elite. The reported change in official media portrayal is particularly noteworthy, as state media is a carefully controlled instrument of political messaging. And any deviation from a singular narrative could indicate significant internal dissent or a redistribution of influence. In parallel with these intriguing internal power dynamics, there appears to be a tightening of domestic ideological control. The South China Morning Post reported on June 21, 2025, that Chinese religious groups have been explicitly warned of a hidden danger from foreign infiltration. This directive underscores Beijing's ongoing efforts to assert state control over religious practices and prevent what it perceives as external influence undermining social stability or party authority. In the context of reported internal political shifts, such warnings could be interpreted as a proactive measure by the party to consolidate its ideological base and preemptively quell any potential domestic unrest or challenges to its governance. Perhaps even as a response to perceived vulnerabilities stemming from the alleged erosion of central leadership. The emphasis on foreign infiltration also points to a broader narrative of external threats, which often serves to rally internal support and justify stricter control measures. Simultaneously, China's foreign policy continues to demonstrate a clear strategic direction, particularly concerning its relationship with Russia. An official statement from English.gov.cn on June 21, 2025 quoted a Chinese vice premier affirming China's readiness to work with Russia to consolidate political mutual trust and strengthen bonds of shared interests. This reiterates the deep and expanding strategic partnership between Beijing and Moscow, a relationship that has gained significant geopolitical weight in recent years. In light of the reported internal shifts, the strengthened alliance could be seen as a critical component of China's external strategy, providing a bulwark against perceived Western pressure and ensuring stability on its northern border. It suggests that even amidst potential internal flux, China's leadership, whether unified or diversified, remains committed to reinforcing alliances that align with its long-term geopolitical objectives, particularly in a multipolar world order. The convergence of these reports on a single day paints a compelling picture of a China in transition. The alleged erosion of Xi Jinping's central authority, if accurate, would inevitably ripple through all facets of Chinese governance, from domestic policy to international relations. The heightened warnings to religious groups could be a direct consequence of perceived internal instability, a move to ensure ideological conformity and social control during a sensitive period. Concurrently, the public reaffirmation of strong ties with Russia may serve to project an image of external strength and stability, potentially compensating for any internal vulnerabilities. As these intricate dynamics continue to unfold, the global community will be closely watching for further indications of China's future trajectory, particularly how these internal shifts might redefine its domestic policies and its assertive role on the world stage. The coming months will be crucial in understanding the true implications of these developments for both China and the broader international order. The global geopolitical landscape continues to shift with remarkable velocity as major powers like China and Russia increasingly assert their influence through strategic economic partnerships and a redefinition of international norms. A flurry of recent reports highlights this evolving dynamic, painting a picture of deepened bilateral ties and a concerted push towards a multipolar world order. Even as internal economic models and external crises remain subjects of intense scrutiny. At the forefront of these developments is the burgeoning economic cooperation between Russia and China. Leaders including Russian President Vladimir Putin and Chinese President Xi Jinping have consistently underscored the significant growth in their bilateral economic relationship. Recent discussions, as reported by outlets like Daily News, Tanzania and MSN, indicate a clear prioritization of economic expansion and trade integration between the two nations. Interestingly, these high-level talks appeared to sidestep pressing international issues such as the ongoing crisis in Iran, signaling a focused agenda on strengthening their economic axis. This strategic choice suggests a mutual commitment to fostering resilience against external pressures, potentially through increased trade in energy, raw materials, and advanced technologies, and a gradual de-dollarization of their bilateral transactions. The implication is a deliberate move to build an economic bloc that operates increasingly independently of Western-dominated financial systems. This economic alignment is complemented by China's broader diplomatic initiatives. A recent statement from a Chinese vice premier highlighted by the Global Times emphasized the call for championing humanity's common values and promoting a multipolar world. This rhetoric underscores Beijing's vision for a global order where power is distributed among multiple centers, challenging the traditional unipolar or bipolar frameworks. Such a stance seeks to legitimize and encourage diverse development paths and governance models, advocating for a more inclusive international system that respects varying national interests and cultural contexts. It positions China as a proponent of global governance reform, aiming to increase the representation and influence of developing nations and non-Western powers. However, China's internal economic structure, a unique blend of state control and private enterprise, continues to draw analytical attention. As discussed by International Socialist Alternative, the interplay between China's dictatorship state and private capital remains a complex subject for observers. While the Chinese government champions its model as a successful path to economic growth and stability, external analyses frequently scrutinize the balance of power between state-owned enterprises and private companies, the role of the Communist Party in economic decision-making, and the implications for market competition and innovation. These discussions often delve into how this distinct economic framework influences China's global economic engagement and its capacity to project power internationally. The ongoing debate reflects fundamental questions about the future trajectory of China's economy and its long-term compatibility with global market norms. The collective narrative emerging from these reports points to a deliberate and multifaceted strategy by China and Russia to reshape global dynamics. Their deepened economic ties provide a foundation for greater geopolitical autonomy, while China's diplomatic push for multipolarity and common values offers an ideological framework for this new order. The underlying causes for these developments are complex, ranging from shared geopolitical interests and a desire to counter perceived Western hegemony to the pursuit of economic diversification and resilience. The impacts are far-reaching, potentially leading to new trade routes, alternative financial architectures, and a recalibration of international alliances. As these partnerships solidify and their visions for a multipolar world gain traction, the global community will undoubtedly witness continued shifts in economic power, diplomatic influence, and the very structure of international relations, necessitating ongoing vigilance and adaptation from all global actors. The global geopolitical landscape is currently experiencing a profound shift marked by escalating military developments, heightened regional tensions, and evolving internal political dynamics within major powers. Recent reports from June 21, 2025 underscore a complex web of challenges, from China's ambitious military modernization and its implications for global security to Taiwan's urgent calls for international solidarity and even concerning vulnerabilities in national information security. A notable development emerging from Beijing suggests a subtle but significant shift in the internal narrative surrounding President Xi Jinping. According to an analysis by the Jamestown Foundation, there are signs that Xi Jinping's central position in official media has begun to erode. While the full implications of this potential shift are yet to unfold, such internal adjustments within China's political machinery could influence its external policies and strategic posture, potentially leading to either increased assertiveness or a more cautious approach on the international stage. Concurrently, a stark projection from the Eurasian Times highlights a dramatic acceleration in China's military capabilities, dubbed a nuclear revolution by some analysts. The report indicates that the People's Liberation Army (PLA) is on track to possess an astonishing 1,500 nuclear-tipped intercontinental ballistic missiles (ICBMs) by 2035. This substantial increase in strategic weaponry capable of reaching anywhere in the United States represents a significant recalibration of the global power balance. Such a rapid expansion of nuclear deterrence raises serious questions about arms control, strategic stability, and the potential for a new era of military competition, compelling nations worldwide to reassess their defense strategies and alliances. Against this backdrop of a burgeoning Chinese military, Taiwan has issued a pointed warning to the international community. As reported by Next, Taipei is acutely aware of China's ongoing military buildup and has called for robust global support to counter what it describes as authoritarian expansion. This plea underscores the escalating tensions across the Taiwan Strait, a critical flashpoint in the Indo-Pacific region. Taiwan's appeals for solidarity highlight the growing apprehension among democratic nations regarding Beijing's territorial ambitions and its increasing assertiveness in the South China Sea and beyond. The potential for miscalculation in this region remains a significant concern, emphasizing the urgent need for diplomatic engagement alongside strategic deterrence. Amidst these rising geopolitical tensions, concerns over information security and espionage have also intensified. Alternet revealed that America's enemies are employing sophisticated tactics, including tricking unsuspecting amateurs to acquire national secrets. This revelation points to a critical vulnerability in the digital age, where traditional espionage methods are augmented by cyber warfare and social engineering. The proliferation of accessible digital platforms and the interconnectedness of global networks create fertile ground for malicious actors seeking to exploit human factors to gain access to sensitive information. This trend necessitates not only advanced technological defenses but also a heightened awareness and robust training for individuals across all sectors, from government to private industry, to safeguard classified data and prevent its illicit dissemination. The confluence of these developments paints a picture of a rapidly evolving global security landscape. The reported shifts in China's internal political dynamics, coupled with its aggressive military modernization, particularly its nuclear expansion, are fundamentally altering strategic calculations worldwide. Taiwan's urgent calls for support reflect the immediate regional implications of this power shift, while the broader concerns about information security underscore the multifaceted nature of modern conflict. As nations navigate these turbulent waters, the imperative for nuanced diplomacy, collective security efforts, and unwavering vigilance against both conventional and unconventional threats will define the trajectory of international relations in the coming years. The ongoing developments demand continuous monitoring and a proactive approach to maintain stability and prevent conflict in an increasingly complex and contested world. The geopolitical chessboard continues to shift, presenting a complex and often contradictory picture of international relations with China. Recent developments across Europe and Southeast Asia underscore a multifaceted approach where strategic competition coexists with pragmatic engagement, and the prospect of a diplomatic reset remains elusive for some, while others intensify their bilateral ties. A pivotal indicator of this evolving landscape is the re-emergence of Ursula von der Leyen's firm stance towards Beijing, effectively signaling an end to any immediate talks of a broad diplomatic reset between the European Union and China. Her re-election, as reported by Euronews.com, reinforces a continuity in the EU's approach characterized by a focus on addressing trade imbalances, concerns over human rights, and the strategic implications of China's global ambitions. Analysts suggest this China hawk posture reflects a growing consensus within Brussels that a more assertive stance is necessary to protect European economic interests and values, potentially leading to increased scrutiny on Chinese investments and technology transfers within the bloc. This firm line from a key global player like the EU is set to shape the contours of future trade negotiations and strategic dialogues, underscoring a period of heightened vigilance rather than rapprochement. Meanwhile, in Southeast Asia, a different yet equally intricate dynamic is at play, exemplified by the burgeoning railway diplomacy between Vietnam and China. Modern diplomacy highlights the progression of high-speed rail projects, a testament to China's ambitious Belt and Road Initiative (BRI) and its drive to enhance regional connectivity. These projects promise significant economic benefits for Vietnam, including improved infrastructure and trade routes. However, as the article title astutely points out, these ventures come with not small risks. The potential for accumulating substantial debt, the strategic implications of increased reliance on Chinese technology and financing, and concerns over sovereignty are critical considerations for Hanoi. This illustrates the delicate balancing act many nations face, leveraging China's economic prowess for development while safeguarding national interests against potential dependencies. Despite these underlying tensions and strategic considerations, diplomatic engagement between Vietnam and China is not only continuing but intensifying. Reports from VOV indicate that both nations are deepening their experience sharing in diplomatic affairs, reflecting a pragmatic necessity to manage their complex relationship. This bilateral effort is further supported by broader diplomatic initiatives, with China daily reporting an overall intensification of diplomacy aimed at averting escalation in various regional contexts. This suggests that even as strategic rivalries persist and economic competition intensifies, both Beijing and its partners recognize the imperative of open communication channels to de-escalate potential flashpoints and foster stability. This ongoing dialogue, whether on high-speed rail projects or diplomatic best practices, underscores a recognition that outright disengagement is often not a viable option, particularly for neighboring states. Looking ahead, the international community appears poised for a period defined by nuanced and often contradictory engagements with China. The EU, under von der Leyen's continued leadership, is likely to maintain its assertive stance, prioritizing strategic autonomy and fair competition. Simultaneously, nations in China's immediate periphery like Vietnam will continue to navigate the dual currents of economic opportunity and geopolitical risk, leveraging infrastructure development while carefully managing their sovereign interests. The intensified diplomatic efforts, even amidst underlying tensions, suggest a collective understanding that communication remains crucial to prevent miscalculation and manage disputes. This complex tapestry of competition and cooperation will undoubtedly continue to evolve, shaping global trade, technological landscapes, and the delicate balance of power for years to come.